Cathy Engelbert just got exposed. Over 20 league insiders are demanding her removal, and what they're saying will shock you. What if I told you the woman running one of the fastest-growing sports leagues in America is being called, by her own team executives and owners, the worst commissioner in professional sports? Not by trolls online. Not by anonymous internet accounts. By the actual people who run WNBA franchises. Stay with me for the next few minutes because what's about to come out is a full-blown crisis at the top of the WNBA, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why so many people inside the league believe Cathy Engelbert's time is running out. Cathy Engelbert is under fire, and it is getting worse by the day. Insiders, executives, and owners are lining up to say she is simply not fit for the job anymore. Let's start with a clip from Courtney, who did not hold back. Engelbert has turned the WNBA into a mechanism for political discourse that goes off the rails instead of it being a sports engine. There is not a worse commissioner in pro sports than Cathy Engelbert. And I could go on for the entirety of this segment. That reaction alone tells you everything you need to know about the current state of WNBA leadership. When multiple team executives, owners, and industry insiders are willing to go on record, even anonymously, to criticize your performance, you have a serious problem on your hands. And this isn't routine criticism. This is a coordinated outcry from the very people who run the league, calling for change at the very top. Cathy Engelbert is facing the most intense scrutiny of her entire tenure as WNBA Commissioner, and the pressure is coming from inside the house. According to a bombshell report from ESPN's Alyssa Thomas, more than 20 stakeholders across the league, owners, team executives, players, and agents, spoke on condition of anonymity to express one unified belief. Cathy Engelbert is not the right person to lead the WNBA through this moment of explosive growth and unprecedented challenges. Let's break down exactly what's being said here because these aren't vague complaints. These are specific, damning assessments of leadership failure. One team executive told ESPN, "There is not a worse commissioner in pro sports than Cathy Engelbert." That is not hyperbole from a random fan on social media. That's someone who works directly with the league office. Someone whose career depends on the commissioner succeeding, saying publicly that she is the worst in all of professional sports. Another owner put it just as bluntly, "I don't see any change since Caitlin Clark's comments. I don't think she's learned significantly based on her failures." Think about what that actually means. The league just experienced the most transformative season in its entire history, driven primarily by Caitlin Clark's arrival. Attendance records were shattered. Television ratings tripled. Merchandise sales exploded. And yet the very people running the teams believe the commissioner learned nothing from the mistakes that nearly derailed that success. The criticism goes beyond results. It's about style, approach, and basic competence. Multiple stakeholders described Engelbert as not personable, defensive, dismissive, condescending, and out of touch. One team executive summed it up this way, "I think Cathy's ultimate Achilles heel will be relationships, or the lack of them. In that role, you need to be able to build relationships to give and take. And I think she really struggled with that." Then there's the Dan Patrick situation, which perfectly captures the problem. In January 2025, Engelbert was scheduled to appear on the Dan Patrick Show, one of the most respected platforms in sports media, known for substantive interviews with major sports figures. At the last minute she canceled. Her explanation? Her PR team advised her it wasn't a good idea. Let that sink in. The commissioner of a professional sports league, during a period of unprecedented growth and scrutiny, refused to sit down with a mainstream sports journalist because her own handlers were afraid of tough questions. Adam Silver regularly appears on the Dan Patrick Show. Roger Goodell does interviews with challenging journalists. Rob Manfred faces the media even when MLB is in crisis. But Cathy Engelbert won't, because her PR team apparently doesn't think she can handle it. That single decision reveals something crucial about her leadership style: avoidance. When confronted with difficult situations, Engelbert consistently chooses to hide rather than engage. She doesn't build relationships with media. She doesn't develop rapport with her star players. She doesn't communicate transparently with team owners. Instead, she retreats behind carefully crafted statements and lets controversies fester until they explode in public. And speaking of controversies exploding, let's talk about the Alyssa Thomas incident because this one is serious. According to Sports Business Journal, an outlet that historically does not get things wrong, multiple sources confirmed that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver personally implored Cathy Engelbert to reverse course and suspend Alyssa Thomas for punching Caitlin Clark in the throat during a playoff game. The WNBA's initial response? A flagrant 1 foul and a fine. No suspension. for a closed-fist strike to another player's throat. The outrage was immediate and widespread. Fans, media members, and apparently the commissioner of the NBA himself all recognized this punishment was nowhere near adequate. According to the reporting, Silver had to step in directly, urging Engelbert to issue a real suspension. The WNBA later denied the report to Front Office Sports. But here's the problem. The league has burned through all of its credibility. When you consistently make questionable decisions, refuse to communicate transparently, and demonstrate a pattern of protecting certain players while exposing others to real physical danger, people stop believing your denials. The fact that multiple sources felt compelled to leak this story to Sports Business Journal in the first place tells you there is real frustration boiling inside the league office itself over how Engelbert handled the situation. Now let's talk about Caitlin Clark specifically, because this might be the most glaring example of the leadership vacuum at the top of the WNBA. Multiple team sources told ESPN they find it curious that Engelbert has never prioritized building a closer relationship with Caitlin Clark, the league's most high-profile player, and the person widely credited with supercharging the WNBA's entire popularity boom. Meanwhile, at the CNBC Sport and Boardroom Game Plan Summit, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver publicly said, "I have come to know Caitlin really well. She's an incredible player and also an incredible person." Read between those lines for a second. The commissioner of a completely different league has a better relationship with the WNBA's biggest star than the actual WNBA commissioner does. That's not just awkward, it's a fundamental failure of leadership. Your job as commissioner is to protect, promote, and partner with your league's most valuable assets. Silver understands this instinctively. He's built real relationships with LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and every other major NBA star, because he knows those relationships are essential to the league's long-term success. Engelbert doesn't seem to grasp this basic principle at all. Here's a moment that says it all. When Caitlin Clark won Rookie of the Year in 2024, Engelbert didn't show up in person to present the award. She called Fever head coach Christy Sides and had Sides relay the congratulations. Then she called Clark on the phone. Compare that to how Engelbert handled Paige Bucher's Rookie of the Year moment, showing up in person, smiling for photos, making it a real occasion. The contrast is impossible to ignore and honestly, impossible to explain away. And when a reporter directly asked Engelbert about her own job security, her response wasn't accountability, it was deflection. She essentially suggested that if she were a man, nobody would be asking that question. Now look, the double standards women face in leadership are real, and they deserve honest conversation. But using that as a shield every single time real, substantive criticism comes your way isn't accountability. It's avoidance dressed up as commentary. And people inside the league are noticing. There's also a broader pattern here, officiating inconsistency and player safety failures throughout the entire 2024 season. Caitlin Clark was subjected to an unprecedented level of physical punishment during her rookie year. Hip checks that sent her flying into the scorer's table. Flagrant fouls to the head. Dangerous closeouts on three-point attempts. And the league's response was largely passive. Fines handed out after the fact, but rarely suspensions, rarely a clear message that this kind of behavior would not be tolerated. Now, to be fair, Engelbert's defenders will point out that she kept the league alive through COVID-19, negotiated a new collective bargaining agreement, and oversaw expansion to 13 teams. Those are real accomplishments and she deserves some credit for them. But here's the thing, keeping an organization alive is not the same as leading it through transformative growth. The skills required for survival mode are simply not the same skills required to capitalize on a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And the 2024 season handed the WNBA exactly that kind of opportunity. Caitlin Clark's arrival generated mainstream attention the league had never experienced before in its history. Casual sports fans who had never watched a single WNBA game were suddenly tuning in. Corporate sponsors were calling with real interest. Television networks were bidding for broadcast rights. This was the moment to convert all that attention into sustained, long-term growth, to turn casual viewers into committed fans, to professionalize league operations, to elevate the entire product. Instead, the league became defined by dysfunction. The storylines weren't about incredible basketball, even though there was plenty of that on the court. They were about officiating controversies, player safety concerns, and off-court narratives that had nothing to do with the actual game. Engelbert allowed Caitlin Clark to become, as one analyst put it, hijacked in narratives that have nothing to do with basketball. She failed to protect her league's biggest star, failed to control the discourse surrounding her own league, and failed to present a professional product to the massive new audience that was suddenly watching. Now, all eyes turn to All-Star Weekend in Phoenix, and the hope is that the league has actually learned something from last year's disaster. Because the 2024 All-Star Game was, frankly, unwatchable. Low effort. No intensity. Players going through the motions like it was a scrimmage they'd been forced to attend. Fans who tuned in expecting to watch the league's very best players compete were instead treated to what looked like a glorified shoot-around. The three-point contest and skills challenge were entertaining enough, but the main event was an embarrassment to the league. This year needs to be different. The talent is undeniably there. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Buchers, Aya Wilson, Kelsey Mitchell. Genuine, generational stars capable of putting on a real show if they're motivated to do so. The real question is whether the league has done anything at all to incentivize actual competition. Have they increased the prize money? Changed the format? Given these players any real reason to treat this like it matters? Because here's the truth, the All-Star Game is a showcase. It's the league's biggest opportunity to put its best foot forward for a national audience, many of whom might be watching WNBA basketball for the very first time. Deliver another lifeless exhibition, and you've wasted that opportunity completely. You've told an entire new audience of casual fans that even the league's biggest stars don't care enough to try. That's a death sentence for growth. Here's what makes all of this so genuinely frustrating. The WNBA has never been better positioned for success than it is right now. The talent level across the league is extraordinary. Aya Wilson is playing at an MVP level, dominating in the post while extending her range out to the three-point line. Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu form one of the most dynamic duos in professional basketball today. Young stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink are bringing entirely new audiences into the sport. The product on the court is legitimately excellent. But the league's infrastructure, leadership, and decision-making simply haven't caught up to the quality of play. There's a massive disconnect between what's happening on the court and how the league is actually being run. Players are performing at an elite level while the front office stumbles through crisis after crisis, seemingly unable to capitalize on the momentum it's been handed on a silver platter. Jeff Hunt, a crisis and reputation management specialist who has worked with Major League Baseball, the ADP, the WTA, and the PGA Tour, told ESPN something devastating. The hole has just gotten so deep. She's in a place now where I don't really know what she does. That's a brutal assessment from someone whose entire career is helping sports organizations navigate difficult moments. He's essentially saying Engelbert's position has become untenable, that the accumulated failures have created a credibility deficit so large it's unclear how she even begins to recover. And it's not just outside critics anymore. The call is coming from inside the house. Team executives and owners, the very people who employ Engelbert, whose financial success directly depends on the league's growth, are openly questioning whether she should remain in the role at all. Even the congressional letter from Republicans is an unprecedented development. In the entire history of this league, there has never been a moment where members of Congress felt compelled to send a formal letter questioning the commissioner's handling of player safety and competitive integrity. That simply does not happen to well-run leagues with competent leadership. It happens when things have gone so far off the rails that even outside observers feel obligated to step in. The pattern here is impossible to miss. Engelbert clearly excels at the financial and operational side of running the league, negotiating a CBA, managing a budget, overseeing expansion logistics. But she fails, repeatedly, at the human, relational, and strategic elements of leadership. She can't build relationships with star players. She can't communicate effectively with media. She can't read the room when controversy erupts. She can't protect the league's most valuable assets from narratives that end up damaging everyone involved. And this matters more now than ever because the WNBA is at a genuine inflection point. This league isn't fighting for survival anymore. It's fighting for relevance and respect in the broader sports landscape. That requires a completely different kind of leadership. It requires someone who can engage confidently with mainstream media, build real partnerships with corporate sponsors, cultivate genuine relationships with star players, and present a professional, competent face to the public. Engelbert has demonstrated over and over again that she either can't or won't do these things. Look at how Adam Silver operates for comparison. He's visible. He's accessible. He sits down for long-form interviews with tough journalists. He builds real relationships with players because he understands those relationships are essential to the league's success. He communicates clearly during a crisis, takes ownership of problems, and explains how the league plans to address them. He's not perfect, no commissioner is, but he understands the fundamentals of leadership in a modern sports league. Engelbert, by contrast, hides. She avoids difficult conversations. She lets controversy spiral completely out of control before ever addressing it. She fails to build bridges with the people who matter most to the league's future. And the WNBA deserves so much better than this. The players deserve better. The fans investing their time, money, and emotional energy into this league deserve better. They deserve a commissioner who treats the league's biggest star with the respect and attention she's earned. They deserve a commissioner who will stand in front of tough questions instead of hiding behind PR handlers. They deserve a commissioner who genuinely understands that relationships matter, that communication matters, that player safety matters above everything else. Right now they don't have that. They have a commissioner who appears completely overwhelmed by the moment, unable to rise to the challenges that come with unprecedented growth. The stakeholders inside the league see it. The media covering the league sees it. The fans watching at home see it too. The only question left is whether the people who actually have the power to make a change, the board of governors, the team owners, and the NBA leadership that ultimately oversees the WNBA, will finally act on what everyone else already knows. This might genuinely be Cathy Engelbert's final season as WNBA Commissioner. The criticism has reached a critical mass. When more than 20 stakeholders are willing to speak to ESPN about their concerns, when owners are openly questioning her competence, when team executives are calling her the worst commissioner in all of professional sports, that's not noise that simply fades away. That's a vote of no confidence, and it demands a response. So what happens next? Does the league make a change before the new season even begins? Do they wait until after the expansion draft and the new CBA negotiations play out? Or do they try to ride this entire storm out, hoping continued growth in attendance and ratings will paper over the leadership failures underneath? Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody in the league office wants to say out loud. The WNBA is growing despite Cathy Engelbert's leadership, not because of it. Caitlin Clark's talent. Angel Reese's personality. Aya Wilson's dominance. These are the things actually driving the league's success. The real question everyone should be asking is how much bigger this league could be with truly competent leadership at the top. And the answer to that question probably determines whether Engelbert keeps her job at all. If the growth continues, if next season builds on the momentum of the last one, if the expansion teams thrive and the television ratings hold steady, then maybe, just maybe, she survives this. But if there's any stumble, any new controversy, any sign that the league is failing to capitalize on this once-in-a-generation moment, the calls for her removal will become absolutely impossible to ignore. And based on everything we've seen, everything these stakeholders are saying on the record and off, everything that's already been reported, those calls are already getting louder by the day. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes of this league, I need you to do one small thing for me. Hit that subscribe button right now before you scroll away. It genuinely means the world to this channel more than you probably realize. Every single subscriber tells me that this kind of honest, in-depth breakdown is worth making, worth staying up late for, worth fighting for. We're not backed by some big network. We're built by people like you who actually care about the truth behind these headlines. So if you believe the players and the fans of this league deserve better, if you want more videos like this one, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and join the WNBA Analysis family. I promise you we're just getting started, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. WNBA Analysis.